parenting, training children for God's glory. Training children for God's glory. Bible's description of a Christian home. What are the things Bible talks about a Christian home? First of all, the basis of a Christian home is a parental obedience to God. Christian home is a parental obedience to God. Yes, obedience to God's command is driven by love for God. That means parents are to love God. Your love of God results in obedience. In order to affect every area of life, God's commands must reach the inner being of parents, right? Inner beings of parents. Inner being means the source of a motivation, direction, and morality. Yes, the love of God should be there in our inner being. If it is there in our inner being, then we obey, right? So a parenting begins by having a love for God from our inner being, which is resulted in obedience. The reason why you wanted to train your children in God's way is simply because God wants, gets the glory, and you need to, you train your children in God's ways is simply because you love God. You love God. Christian parents must teach them their children to do the same in a daily experience, right? In everyday experience, how do you love God? How do you obey God? Is the discussion for parents with the children. So this training is not something that when you sit at home evening for a prayer. I know that people sit there for prayer, then you talk about biblical matters, Bible matters, things like that, right? People sit. But that's not the way. Every experience, parents are to show how, in this experience, how do we obey God? And why do we obey God, right? Why do we obey God? Because we love God. And then how that is translated into daily life. God's goals for parenting, all right? God's goals for parenting. Okay. Family belongs to God. And if it is of God, then God has set a goal. And what are the goals? Number one, remove folly. Remove folly. Let us look at Proverbs chapter 22, verse 6. This is a famous passage, right? So let's go there. Proverbs 22, verse 6. Can one of you please read?
Direct your children onto the right path, and when they are older, they will not leave it.
All right, in King James Bible, it is, you might remember, train up a child in the way he should go, that even when he is old, he will not depart from it, right? So that is a famous passage. Let's look at verse 15.
A youngster's heart is filled with foolishness, but physical discipline will drive it far away.
Yes, so one of the way you do is, Proverbs says, folly is bound up in the heart of a child. Or, foolishness is in the heart of a child. And NASB says, the road of discipline will remove it far from it. Stick, the road, beating, right, will remove it. So if you think that not disciplining your child is loving, let me tell you, that is actually hating. your children, hating your children. So if you love your children, you use rod. And I have all these verses given, you can look at. So since the wisdom is the goal, when there is folly in the heart of a child, there must be unpleasant discipline that gets his attention. What is that? Unpleasant discipline, not a joyful one, right? He's going to have unpleasant discipline, right? So remove folly, number one. Number two, instill respect. Instill respect. Let's look at chapter 23, verse 22. Same proverb. 23, verse 22.
Listen to your father who gave you life, and don't despise your mother when she is old.
Yeah. Listen to your brother, right? Listen to your father. Listen to your mother. Do not despise. So, yes, instill respect. What is that? Respect and receptivity to what both the parents say must be taught. What parents say, they must respect, even though they may not agree with that. Because they may have their own reasons, right? Children are like that. They must respect. They must respect and receive what they must do, what parents say. So instill respect. That means when parents say something, they do it. Do it. Third, impart wisdom, right? Remove folly by painful discipline. Make sure that they do what you say. Third is impart wisdom. The proverb is full of imparting that. Proverb chapter 2, verse 1 to 4 are at least 8 active verbs that the father uses to describe how the son is to pursue wisdom. Let's look at Proverb chapter 2. Proverb chapter 2. Let's look at first 4 verses.
My child, listen to what I say and treasure my commands. Tune your ears to wisdom and concentrate on understanding. Cry out for insight and ask for understanding. Search for them as you would for silver, seek them like hidden treasures.
Yeah. You said there are 8 activities that father uses to describe how son is to pursue wisdom. So there is, various ways it is, activities are said: cry, raise your voice, call, cry loud, seek, search, right? So the chief goal in parenting is to teach the child to live wisely for God's glory. Live wisely for God's glory. That is what your responsibility. Wisdom can be defined as an orientation which will allow the child to live in harmonious accord with God's ordering of the world. What God has said, that is what the child is going to do. So that is the art, the skill that he is learning in this pursuit of wisdom. How to help a child have an inner orientation? It begins with me submitting to the authorities and order God has put in place. So here is the thing. If your child doesn't obey you, then don't expect him to obey God in the future. If your child is unable to submit to you, then don't expect that this child will submit to God. So submitting to your authority is a sign that the child can, maybe in the future, will submit to God. So wisdom is rooted in the fear of God. Fear of God can be defined as awe of God's might and power, evidence in creation, apprehension of God's wrath, and appreciation of God's love and salvation. So, wisdom is rooted in the fear of God. Here is a child, he looks at God, looks at the work of God in the creation, looks at the power of God, and he's awe at it. And he also appreciates God's work. So it is rooted in the fear of God. Parents have to teach children the value of humility before God. What is that? Value of humility. That is confession of sin. That children ought to look the parents. Children ought to witness the parents confessing their sin to God, that they're humble. If you develop a home where, say, you're always perfect and you never say sorry to your wife. I'm sorry that what I have said. I'm sorry what I've done. And you ask my children, that they witness me. I am a pastor and I am saying sorry in my family, maybe for what I've done or said. Is that I reflect that I need God's grace. I need God's grace. And not only I need God's grace, I want my children to learn that every time when they make a mistake, they tell sorry to God, that they accept it. It is okay to accept the errors and sin. Don't pretend to be so spiritual that you don't do any mistake. And your children will be just like you, a hypocrite. A hypocrite. Yeah. Hypocrisy will be there because they have not learned humility from you. All what they have learned is someone, the perfect. Oh, friends, that's not the way of parenting, right? Let them value. And so what do? You make them to confess their sin to God. When they do wrong, you make them, ask them pardon, not only to you, but to, or not only to whoever they have done wrong, but to God also. Parents are to teach their children skills to live in fear of God and in accordance with His word. Making wise decisions, staying out of trouble, have to respond to trouble when it occurs, and submission to authority. Those are the things that parents are to do. Making wise decisions, staying out of trouble, and have to respond when trouble occurs, and submission to authority. So these are the way you instill wisdom, impart wisdom. And point number 6, parents first need to be taught this for themselves first, so that they will be able to pass it on others. They need to learn how to live godly. They need to learn how to live wisely, so that they will be able to teach others. All right. So point is this: God's goals for parenting. If you want to have a family that brings glory to God, right? Training children for God's glory, you need to understand God's goal. Number 1, remove folly. When they do wrong, punish them, instill respect, impart wisdom. Third, parents' relationship with the children, how they should do. Let's read this passage, right? It's necessary. Ephesians chapter 6, verse 1 to 4. Ephesians chapter 6, verse 1 to 4.
Children, obey your parents because you belong to the Lord, for this is the right thing to do. Honor your father and mother. This is the first commandment with a promise. If you honor your father and mother, things will go well for you and you will have a long life on the earth. Fathers, do not provoke your children to anger by the way you treat them. Rather, bring them up with the discipline and instruction that comes from the Lord.
All right, wonderful passage. We always read. We want the children to learn them. Good. Let's look into them. Obedience to parents means what? What is obedience to parents? Doing what the child is told without a challenge, without excuse, and without delay. Listen carefully. What is meant by your children obeying you? Three things. That they don't challenge what you say. They don't challenge what you say. They will not say an excuse for what you say. They will not wait to obey. They will not delay. That is what the real obedience. Those keywords, three keywords. If your children are really wholeheartedly obeying, they will not challenge what you have asked. Well, what did you tell me to do that has somebody else to do, the other one to do? Or they will not say excuse. No, I have something to do now. I have to do this. No. Or I will do after 10 minutes. No, 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 no. No challenge, no excuse, no delay. That is what obedience. Right away, all the way, with a happy heart. Remember, obedience on the part of the parents has to be motivated by love. Love relationship with the Lord that results in obedience to His word. So, obedience on the part of parents has to be motivated by love relationship with the Lord. You obey God so that your children will obey you. So, this is what the obedience actually means. So, mark it. If you really want to know whether your child is disobedient properly, look at these three attitudes. Are they genuinely obeying you? Then there will not be any challenge. Are they genuinely obeying? Then there will not be an excuse. If they genuinely obey you, they will not delay. Three things. Now, fathers, do not provoke your children to anger, right? That is the, maybe verse 4 says, do not exasperate. All right, your children, or provoke your children to anger. Do not do that. Have children use appeal process, whereby they learn to appeal to their parents with the understanding that they must be willing to obey immediately, right? They must appeal respectfully, and they must be prepared to be obey either way, and they must accept the result of appeal with a gracious spirit either way. All right. What is that? Have a children to use appeal process, because we want them to do something. But maybe there is something that they're not able to do. Right? Maybe they are sick. So there's something in them. That is what appeal, right? Provide them. Okay, is there a necessary reason that, is there a necessity that they're not able to do that? What do you say? That means, maybe a child has got an important test coming up tomorrow. And now you're asking your child to clean entire house now. What will be happening? He's going to take hours, and he's going to take all his study hours. So that is what an appeal. Humbly, he or she can say, I have something to something very important coming up that I need to be doing it. Can I do this? Or maybe do something, or can we do some other thing? Or can we have some other way to? So teach them the purpose of appeal, to give them an opportunity to present in a respectful manner and new information that parents may not have been aware of. Yeah, you may not know the test that is coming tomorrow. You may not know. So, yes, that is important. You should not be like, I don't look at whatever it is, you have exam or you are going to die tomorrow, or you are so sick. I don't care whether you're sick. You do what I say. We don't do that. We should not be doing it. Right? We need to be careful. That's what an appeal process. Second, impatience requires repentance and asking forgiveness. When parents become impatient with the children and can't identify the source, have them chart each incident, what was going on and what were they doing, what the child was doing, what thoughts went through their minds. Connect the parents' thoughts with the child action and their reaction of impatience. Right? Connect the impatience with the sinful mindset that led to being provoked. Yes, why your child became impatient? Because they're provoked. They are getting angry. Did you ask them to do something very unreasonable? Why they became impatient? That's not something you need to find out. That your demand is something that unable to be done. You're making them to do something that they cannot do it. Then they don't have the capacity. Or you have taken a decision that would no normal parents will ever do. And I see some parents, what they do. They punish their children very openly, where? In a church. In a church, in front of everyone. Here is a teenage boy. He is spanked before everyone, slapped before everyone. His friends are there, all are there. In front of them, the parents come, he's all got angry, and tack. And you don't understand. So you understand that those kinds of incidents, your foolishness, because you are fool, you do actions that can stay in the mind of that child for years. For years. And you don't want to be a foolish parent, right? Because your child is not the vessel to pour out your wrath. Because you're not disciplining. You're venting your wrath. You're not disciplining your child. You're venting your wrath. You need to be treated first. You need to have counsel first. If you vent your anger upon your child, you don't raise your children for God's glory. You are a weaker vessel. You are emotionally weak. You have no strength at all, because your emotion is not under control. Your personality is very weak. Maybe you're good for nothing. That's the kind of man you are if you're venting your wrath simply upon your children, rather than punishing them for right reasons, in the right place, with the right attitude. Otherwise, you are sinning against God, because the child is the gift of the Lord. If you don't know that, you learn it. Every child is the gift of God, given in your hand, not to destroy that child. It's a gift. Fathers, did not provoke your children to anger. That means, yes, we want our children to obey, but there is an appeal process so that we understand the situation. And we don't do things foolishly. Number 6, teacher counsel is what is meant by bringing children up in the discipline and admonition of the Lord. Teach your counseling what is meant by bringing children up in the discipline and admonition of the Lord. What does that mean? In the relationship with God, in the context in which to understand this phrase. Yeah, in the discipline and admonition of the Lord. It is actually, this discipline is in the relationship with God. You have a relationship with God. You want the child to have a relationship with God. Every discipline is focused to God. And discipline, right? It is instruction or corporal discipline or training reinforced by consequences, right? That is what discipline. These are the controls put around children so that they will do right. If you disobey, you will be spanked. If you don't do that now, you will be spanked. That's what discipline. Consequences are there. Not necessary to have always a stick for a discipline. Not needed. There are other consequences. If you, like sometime I do. We're going out. You see something. If you demand something today, we're not going to get for a month anything. So, and what the child does, as soon as the child sees a toy hanging over there, oh, I want that, I want that, I want that. Right? And so what I do, what I have done, well, in front of there, I tell, you're not getting it. You will not get it. You're not going to get it this today, or you're not going to get it for a month. No, you're not going to get anything you are asked for a month. And my child has to learn. Finally, my children understand. Sure, if they ask me something, yeah, I want this. So I will answer, let me see. So my children say, oh, that means it's not going to happen, right? If you say, let me see, means it's not going to happen. I said, but maybe it's not going to happen. Because I need to think about it. I need to think 100 times. So my children learned that there's no point in demanding. Or my children learned very quick. There is no point in crying in front of the people to get something done. If you cry in front of the people, you'll be embarrassed. So they knew it. And they're not going to get anything. They're going to get something extra. If a child cries in front of the people to get something, they're going to get something extra. Not only that, they're not going to get anything, they're going to get something extra discipline. They learned that also because we taught them. It doesn't mean that I don't buy what they ask or give them. I buy as far as my means are concerned. If I have the means to buy something, I say we can do it. But then, yes, I wanted to, but here's the situation. We don't have money to buy it. Just openly say. And yet, so here is, nowadays I usually say, this, yes, I would like to get it, but no way. So what do? You study hard, get a nice job, and then let's buy it. Right? So discipline, consequences should be there. Admonition is what? To place instruction to the mind, right? Teach to build inner conviction. Anytime when you talk to your child, when you discipline your child, you spank your child, make sure that you admonish them. What is that? Counsel them. Son, why did I do this? When you bring your voice and you bring them, okay, you just punish them, maybe, and then you tell them, okay, what is the reason? What is the reason I had to do this? Why did you, what was the violation? What is the disobedience? You instruct them. Don't simply leave by giving some spanking or and I saw some mothers always, always they spank their child. A child even doesn't cry now. All the time, pain, everything. I don't know from where they learned all those things. You admonish. So that is what it says. In the discipline and admonition of the Lord, bring your child in a relationship with God. Right? So that means every occasion, disobedience and obedience, discipline and admonition are to be connected with God. Connected with God. Why you should do? Because God has said. Why you need to be punished? Because you violated God's command first. That's why you train your children. All right. The next one. What is the most effective and beneficial way to instruct a child? Best way to instruct a child. Number A, correct false idea about discipline. Correction alone is not enough. Correction alone is not enough. Alone correction will not change behavior or prevent a sinful lifestyle. There must be instruction and discipline. Correction is talking about the negativity is not enough. Removing one of the negative side is not enough. You need to add the positive. That is what instruction. Admonition. So, this is something that Deuteronomy also says. So, do not discipline without a teaching. Don't use that stick without knowing what to teach your children. Don't use that one. So always one hand as a rod, another hand discipline the word, the teaching, sorry, not the discipline, the teaching. Disciplining in uncontrolled anger is sin all the time. If you're venting your anger out, it is always sin. But we must always come down quickly on God's side of an issue. Yeah. Will you get angry? Yes, you will. You will get angry. There's a possibility. And one of the things I do, if I get angry, I just keep quiet. I don't want to talk to anyone. Because the moment I talk, wow, the words can go so high. So high means can be so sharp. I know my weakness and I wanted to keep quiet. And then when I learn the presence and I understand what is at stake, when I come back in my senses, right? I have an emotion and I have wisdom. Now, when I get angry, the emotion takes over me, takes over the wisdom. And I can be foolish, and all of us can be so foolish when the emotion takes over. And what we want to have, the emotion to come down and the wisdom to come over. Now we are capable of taking a decision. Only now. Even both of them, it is difficult. So we want to have the emotion, the anger to come under, and the wisdom to come up, right? So the disciplining in uncontrolled anger is sin. Do not discipline without love or praise. Yes, anytime you don't discipline anyone without love. Also, it is important to point out the good side of it. Good side of your child. Have you ever spoken the good side of your child? Because they need to be encouraged that we know what, because we always wanted to raise good behavior. It is an encouragement. Remember, God disciplines those who he loves for their benefit. Hebrews chapter 12. God disciplines those who he loves. So you love your children, you better discipline. You better discipline. Whenever it's very loving to set and enforce limits. Yeah. When you wake up, what do you do? What I expect, I will inspect. That's the house rule. What is the limit? What I expect from you, I will make sure that I will inspect. I will make sure whether you do it. All right, you are expected to wake up at this time. You better do it. So limits, keep a limit. What will limits do? Not cause or heal a problem. Right? Reveal needs for teaching. Not every problem is major, but they are teaching opportunities. Protect the child from things he cannot handle. Right? For example, don't leave an unmarried couple in the house alone. We don't do it, right? So protect the child from things that he cannot handle. Provide a good setting for learning. So limits can help. You make the rule. This is what you do. This is the limit. This is far you can go. Not more than that. Children not practiced at handling limits will not be prepared to handle life. You set the rule, and if they're not able to sit and live within the rules, they will not be able to live a life future with the rule, where they have to now lead the life. So we want children to learn limits. They need to learn. Maybe they need to learn sometime poverty also. Find out what is going on in the child's mind when instructions are given. When you tell something, what do they think? Right? That's your duty. It's the part of training. And okay. Maybe some problem with my cam. All right, 1 second, friends. Okay, that was the problem of internet. 1 second. Okay. I hope. Okay. All right here. Sorry about that. I'm about to complete that one, but anyway. So, first, what I was saying is the limits uh, you know, it is very loving to set and enforce limits. Set a limit in your home, where they can go, what they can do, what kind of people, what kind of friends that they can meet, in which house they can go, how much time they can spend time with their friends. Set a limit. That is what we are saying. As express expectation ahead of time, right? So when you ask them to do something, you tell the expectation. Okay, this is the time that I expect you to do this. It becomes child choice. But we wanted to have the expectations, reasonable expectations, right? Or we cannot, asking the child to study a chapter within 10 minutes. It might take a half hour or an hour. So you be reasonable. Children need a plan for change. And you need to be one giving it to them. Example, if they are easily distracted, teach them to look quickly and then get back to their responsibility, right? If something comes, look, come back. They wanted to look something. You look then, okay, you look. Now you come back, right? So that is what, when they are distracted, you do. So expectations, reasonable expectations. Even forgetful child can be taught mental priorities. There are some children that cannot remember. Still, you can teach them. Focus on them to learning. Focus on them learning to prioritize what they are told because authority has asked for something. Yeah, some children forget. They forget because there is something else going on. Usually, that's the reason they forget. And we want them to be remembering, right? Ask them, do you remember? Do you remember? So reminding them is an easy way for them to remember. And one of the things I always tell my children, do you know what is the easy way to remember an answer to a question during exam? What is the easy way to remember? Is to remember now. If you remember the answer to a question now, that means you can remember later, right? So try to remember the answers now, which will help you to remember later. That's the way our brain works. If you don't remember the answer now, you never expect that you will remember later, right? So remembering now is the easy way to remember later. So I say expectation must be reasonable and a definable, clear and concise command, right? Clear command. Include both put off and put on, right? Stop leaving things where you last use them and put them in their proper place. Where did you leave last time? Your clothes. This is not the place to put. And tell them where to put, right? So same idea. Definable. What should be done? Enforceable. You need to be there to enforce a limitation you set. That is the most important thing. What is that? Enforce it, right? Okay, you set the limit. The failure of parents in many cases, they tell them this is what they do, but they never enforce it. If you can't enforce it, setting it only set the child up for failure. You make the rule, not able to enforce, that means you are setting up your child